Spruce! Spruce, where are you? I'm filming. Didn't you want to come and talk to Liz? Spruce! I'm nervous. But Spruce, this was your idea. Don't you want to come and talk to Liz about the podcast? But I've never been on a podcast before, so I feel really, really nervous. Yeah, but Spruce, you said that you were excited about the podcast, remember? I am! I really, really am! Don't get me wrong, there's so many new things happening right now, and I don't even know how to be on a podcast. I've been on YouTube, and I've been on Facebook Live, and I've even been on our website, and I've done stories over Zoom, but a podcast is something brand new! You're right, and that's pretty exciting, isn't it? It is exciting, but I'm nervous. That's okay. Why don't you just take a couple of deep breaths and then introduce yourself to Liz, because I'm sure Liz really wants to meet you. You're a very likable squirrel. Okay, I will. Hi. So, my name is Spruce the Squirrel, and my pronouns are E, as in the letter, and like, And I was at your service on Sunday. You're doing great so far, Spruce. Keep going. I was at your service on Sunday, and I really enjoyed it because I felt like I've also been, the only squirrel in the room for a long time. So I often don't feel like I belong, and you really made me feel like I belong, Liz. So I really was excited to hear about the podcast and was hoping that maybe if you ever have guest speakers on the podcast, you might want to welcome a squirrel onto the podcast. A squirrel, hey, Spruce? Well, which squirrel were you thinking of? Me! Of course, me! I would love to be on the podcast. And why were you thinking that you would like to be on the podcast, Spruce? Well, I really like telling stories, and I tell lots of stories, and I tell stories at Westwood, and I tell stories on Facebook Live, and now I'm working hard to become a YouTube star, and all of those things are super exciting, and I was hoping that I could tell some stories on the podcast too. I mean, that would be pretty special, so why don't you tell Liz a story to show her what you've got? Right now? Well, yeah, you want to try out for the podcast. You've got to have a story to tell her, Spruce. But, I didn't rehearse anything. Usually when we're telling a story, I write notes and I write everything that I want to say in my notebook, and I practice it in front of the screen a few times, and then we do like 5 or 6 takes, and then we go live after all of that work, but I haven't done any practice. Well, Spruce, you knew that we were planning on doing this to show Liz that you wanted to be on the podcast. Yeah, I know, but there's just so much going on right now with all of the YouTube and all of the things. I understand, but you're a really good storyteller. I bet that if you thought hard for a second, you could tell Liz a story, even without all of the practicing and all of the notes. Well, maybe you're right. Okay, so let me see. Spruce, I've never seen you this shy in my whole time knowing you. I know, there's just so much happening. Well, what's happening? Why don't you tell us a story about what's been happening? Okay, so it's fall, and my squirrel buddies and I, we're collecting lots of acorns, and we're holing them away in our tree, And I don't know what else to say. That's what we've been doing. I've been running around all over the neighborhood, which is really nice because I do love you, but you're in a bubble and I like seeing lots of squirrels and you're one person. That's okay. I understand that, Spruce. You're lucky that squirrels can't have COVID. Yeah, it's a really good thing because then I can run around the whole neighborhood and meet all of the squirrels in the neighborhood. And I feel sorry for all the humans when I'm looking down on them. They look smaller than me when I'm up in the trees. And we collect the nuts. And then I look forward to the winter when I get to meditate. I still have a hard time imagining you meditating, but you keep talking about it. How do you meditate, Spruce? Well, my friend, Olga the Owl. You remember Olga? I do remember Olga. Olga the Owl taught me that if I sit really quietly and I listen with my ears and I just listen, I hear the leaves falling and then I can hear the snowflakes falling. And then everything feels so silent and still, and then I don't get bored and restless in the wintertime because I'm listening. That's really sweet, Spruce. So what were the things you wanted to talk about on the podcast? Well, I really wanted to talk about being a squirrel because I don't know any other Unitarian squirrels, and there was one time when I went into a restaurant for the very first time, and there was a squirrel in the restaurant, and that was exciting, and it made me feel less alone. So I thought that maybe if I could go onto the podcast as a squirrel and there were any squirrels listening, then those squirrels would not feel alone because they would hear that there's another squirrel out there on the podcast. Aw, Spruce, that's super sweet of you. I like that idea. Well, I guess we'll just have to see what Liz says, but I do know that you're a very friendly squirrel, and especially when you take lots of time to make notes in your notebook, you've got a lot of really good stories to tell, don't you? I do. It's so much fun. I love seeing people's smiles and making people laugh. That's really sweet. Well, I guess we're gonna send this off and see what Liz says, hey? Yes. I really hope you like me, Liz, because I really enjoyed your service and it was really special to me. That's very sweet. Nothing like sucking up, eh? I'm not. I'm just being sincere. Alright, well, that's us. Over and out.